Magic the Gathering players ask the question, should I buy the Elspeth versus Kiora dual deck? How does Elspeth versus Kiora rate when it comes to financial value? Does it have cards needed for constructed play? And speaking of play, how about its actual playability? For those who are looking to buy this product for casual games or just fun with friends, is this dual deck worth it? Let's take a look. Elspeth versus Kiora contains the following. Elspeth and Kiora? Hang on. Okay, I am not opening this yet, because before we look at any additional cards contained in this dual deck, I have to comment on the two featured foil cards of this dual deck. The choice to include both Elspeth Sun's Champion and Kiora the Crashing Wave is the absolute best call that Wizards of the Coast could have made. Since the moment Theros was released, Elspeth has been a major player in Standard, and her price used to be incredibly high, while it's come down just a bit to more reasonable levels now that we're over a year since her initial release. She's still far from cheap at about $16 a piece, and she's used in many Standard decks. Kiora, while never anywhere as heavily used as Elspeth, has also seen her fair share of play, and she's still being used a bit. I believe she's in Sultai Control and Sidisi Whip decks in varying degrees. While not as expensive as Elspeth, she's far from cheap at $9 each. I may be an English major, but even I can do that math. $16 for Elspeth, about $9 for Kiora. That's a value of $24 just for the two cards on the cover of this box. No, $26. No. Considering the MSRP of this is $19.99, you can already see where I'm going in terms of financial value. This dual deck has it. Now, obviously, after the release of this dual deck, prices are going to fall on Elspeth and Kiora both, and there's going to be a split in the value of these foil cards versus the originals. The originals will likely always be a little more valuable. But this is everything that a dual deck should be, right on the cover. Two cards needed and played in Standard. Anyone who needs even one of these is getting a great value from buying this instead of just getting the singles. Compare this to the absolutely worthless featured cards of Speed versus Cunning, a disaster of a dual deck. Zergo Helm Smasher and Arcanus were neither needed nor wanted, or worth even half the price of the box. Arcanus wasn't even in Standard, nor Modern, nor anywhere. Not that dual decks are meant to provide specifically Standard staples, but it was a real disaster. There is a problem with this dual deck, however, because as smart of a choice it was for them to make it contain Elspeth and Kiora, it's coming out as late as possible. There is an incredibly fleeting amount of time that these two cards will remain in Standard, and neither has seen any significant play in other formats. Within a few months, these will be out of rotation and no longer needed. So in terms of non-standard, there's very little value here, but it is a nice assortment of pieces for collectors. It's by no means a must-have, but most players examining it will likely see at least that $20 of value in it. In fact, as of the filming of this video, if you were to assemble the complete contents yourself, you'd be paying about $32.40 for all the singles. As I said, the dual deck Planeswalkers are likely going to stay much cheaper than their original counterparts, but it is still a better value to just buy the dual deck for $20 instead of buying one Elspeth and one Kiora single, even if you get the less expensive dual deck versions. Sadly, the only card of any noticeable value within the rest of the decks is Mother of Runes, a card that still maintains a steady $5 staple price. This one I think will at least hold at $5, if not go a bit up, because of the beautiful alternate art that has been provided by Therese Nielsen, one of Magic's most celebrated artists. What if we examine the value of the other cards in this deck? Is there anything in here we want? Sadly, there's not much. In fact, most of the assorted cards are of $1 or less in value. But there's a lot of nice alternate art this time, even in addition to the Therese Nielsen crown jewel. So while the alternate art Temple of the False God might not be worth big bucks, collectors are probably still very happy to have this copy for their cubes and commander decks. There's a few strange misfires here though, nothing dramatic, but the Elspeth deck contains 2 soldier tokens. However, Elspeth creates 3. In addition to that, the emblems for Elspeth and Kiora are missing, and considering this is literally 3 small cards that could easily have been included at no noticeable cost to Wizards of the Coast, it's really bizarre that they were not. In terms of playability, just as a casual deck for fun, this of course is a highly subjective question. This is still a pretty good matchup, and dual deck enthusiasts and casual players alike aren't going to be disappointed. Final conclusion? If Wizards of the Coast had released Elspeth vs. Kiora instead of Speed vs. Cunning, this would have been a grand slam based solely on the inclusion of Elspeth and Kiora. Its release time does diminish the value here for standard players, but not too dramatically. And although the deck contains many odd errors, such as the incorrect number of tokens and the omission of emblems, this is a solid dual deck and well worth the MSRP of $19.99 for most players. Final grade, B-. I hope this video has been of some help for you. Fun really is subjective, so let me know in the comments if you've gotten a chance to play with Elspeth vs. Kiora yet. Do you enjoy the matchups, or do you think one deck is overpowered? Which dual deck do you think has been the most fun? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, you can't play Magic at Target or Walmart. So when you're buying products like dual decks, who are you supporting? Big box stores like Target and Walmart, or your local game store where you actually can sit down and play Magic the Gathering with the other members of your community?